I'm Margaret Douglas, this year's chair of the Wake Committee of the National Society of the Colonial Dames of America in North Carolina. I'm standing out in front of the Joel Lane Museum House on this beautiful spring day. Normally at this time of year we would be having our annual spring fundraiser hosted by our committee, but the requirements of COVID-19 have forced us to convert to a virtual fundraiser. We are so grateful to the generous support of our sponsors and community. Since we couldn't gather together for our usual spring party, we thought it'd be fun to bring you here to share these beautiful gardens with you. It also gives us an opportunity to talk about the exciting work that's been going on with the paint restoration project. I'm standing in front of the Joel Lane House, which was built in 1769 and is the oldest standing dwelling in Wake County. We have just completed a restoration paint project, and I'm eager for our Executive Director, Lainey Hubbard, to share some of the interesting facts about that.
My name is Lainey Hubbard. I'm the director of the Joel Lane Museum House, and I'm here to show off a little bit today of our newly restored paint. So we discovered around 2018-2019 that unfortunately the yellow paint on the house that had been there since the 1970s was beginning to trap moisture beneath it, hiding rot. This made it necessary to remove all of the exterior paint from the Joel Lane house and to replace it. Before we did, we commissioned a study by Dr. Susan Buck out of Colonial Williamsburg. And she discovered that the original color of this house was not the yellow that it had been painted, but actually this very handsome red that it is now. So we made some more discoveries as we got the paint off. I'm excited to show those to you today as well. When we did apply new paint to the house, we saved one board that lets us illustrate the most important and most interesting discoveries we made under the paint. First of all, we can see traces of the original red hematite-based, iron-based pigment that is the origin of the color that is on here now. We can see these marks, almost nearly vertical, nearly parallel marks. Those are from the pit saw method that was used by the enslaved laborers who cut by hand every single board in this structure. There wasn't a sawmill in this area in the 18th century, so every piece of wood that went into this house was created and assembled with human labor and hand tools. Beneath the paint, in addition to the tool marks and the pigments that we hoped and kind of expected to find, we found a couple mysteries. This is a bullet, a lead projectile, either a small caliber bullet or possibly a large bird shot, maybe swan shot, that was delivered at speed to the wall of the Joel Lane Museum House. Anytime since the 18th century, there's no real way to know when. We do not have a story for this, at least none that's trustworthy. I'm afraid with this, conjecture may be all we ever have. While this portion of our paint project is largely completed, there is one jarring exception, this white door that sticks out like a sore thumb. This door is original to this house, and Susan Buck discovered that under the many layers of paint on this door, originally the door had been faux grained. Faux graining is an 18th century art form wherein artists would paint wood to look just like wood. So the idea was maybe you had pine, as this door was, and it would be painted, as this door was, to resemble something like a mahogany. So originally the pine door was given kind of an ochre yellow base, and then streaked with various browns and darker shades to create a very pleasing look of wood. This was a trend that went on for a number of decades. By the end of it, it got very strange. People were faux graining oak to look like oak. But in this case, we know that these pine doors were grained to look like mahogany. And in the near future, we will be replicating this 18th century art form, and we can discuss that on our tours as well. We would like to thank all of the sponsors, donors, and supporters who have made this work and all that we do at the Joel Lane Museum House possible. We will reopen for tours June 2nd. We can't wait to show you all that we've accomplished. We look forward to seeing you here.
I hope you've enjoyed this visit to Joel Lane Museum House. Once again, on behalf of the Wake Committee, we want to extend our sincere thanks to all the sponsors and donors. You are what makes everything we do here possible. Please come visit.